Hello, Gemini. It is time for your weekly reading. I'm going to do one that's a little bit different this time. It's actually a new one. I've only done it today for the first time. I'm going to start with three cards that are about you in general. Then three cards that are about what's going on. It can be your obstacles. It can be, something positive in your life. It could be influences, just whatever's going on in life. And then the last three cards will be the outcome or potentially an answer to your question, or we can formulate some advice out of what is seen, or, what you'll do moving into the future. Something to that effect, depending on what the cards are, of course. So let's get to it. By the way, I have really appreciated everybody's emails to me about, how you're liking the readings and some of the outcomes that you've seen in relation to the readings and things like that. So that's been really great. Please keep that up if you would like to, or the address is going to be below. If you have anything else you want to, let me know. Okay, so this is the portion that's about you. So, King of Cups, are you a water sign by any chance? Oh, no, you're not, because you're Gemini. But maybe you know a water sign who is the King of Cups. What am I saying? It's too early in the morning. Okay, so the King of Cups could be a water sign, like I say, Pisces, Scorpio, or Cancer. And he's a very good king, very passionate man. I shouldn't say man because now this has nothing to do with anything that's happening in these modern times where, sex is apparently interchangeable. None of that. This has to do with the tarot cards only. And the tarot cards are very ancient, and they have always been sort of, a situation where if a female is the persona of the King of Cups, that's absolutely fine. That totally works. It is not really a thing related to sex, although you will find that generally speaking, if a king comes up, let's say 78% of the time it will be an actual man, but we have to always bear in mind that we all have male and female components within us. So there is that. So it could be like speaking to that portion of you that is the male part. Or, like in my case, for example, I resonate. Now, I do sort of consider, well, I could go kind of either way on the card. Say, I could, I would take the card for me that is the typical court card that would be for me based on my age and gender. However, I could sort of flip to the king because I do think I have the kind of personality that could either be the king or queen. So that is how I kind of base it. If I'm doing a reading for somebody and they seem like they have some of the attributes to the card that is not the expected or, what they would consider the traditional gender. Although, like I say, in the cards, it wasn't really like that. It might have been based on the law of averages, but I never, ever, even when I was a kid, hearing the cards being read by a variety of different kinds of readers, there was never, oh, this can only be this and this can only be this. That's why I kind of find it funny when people go, oh, we have to overthrow these traditional cards because they're so bad and they are, have all these limits. They never really did have those limits, not tarot cards. I never ever found that in any reading I ever heard in my entire life. So just going to make that point. The tarot cards are very flexible with, whatever your personality is like. That's what it's more based on, the type of person you are. Based on your actions and attitudes. I think there's always a card. And sometimes it's a combination of cards. Sometimes maybe one card doesn't really tell the whole tale. I mean, it never does with the court cards. But anyway, let's get back to the actual reading instead of me rambling on like a maniac. Okay, so Gemini, you are not the King of Cups. Well, there we go. See, I actually did that where I said you're not because you're not a water sign, but you could be. You could be this passionate person. It could be that you actually are exactly like the King of Cups, in spite of the fact that you're a water sign, because there are exceptions all the way throughout. So Perhaps this is you, the King of Cups, this very passionate person who is, he's passionate basically about everything in life, very connected to family and running a good kingdom and being very judicious and, so about his work and about probably every area of his life. Very passionate person, somebody you can really talk to and connect with, somebody who's, I always say about the court cards, in all the signs that they're a good communicator, and they usually are. I mean, when you're passionate about something, you're usually passionate also with people in expressing what you're passionate about, so that makes you a really good communicator. Like there are exceptions. If you're too shy to be that good communicator, okay, then maybe you're not. But, with the wands, people who are, wands, fire signs, they're usually very outgoing. So they're very good communicators. I can't talk today. And then on top of that, we've got, the other signs, which for practical reasons, they also are good communicators. In fact, the sword signs, swords are about communication. So there are reasons that, by the time you're to a certain level of accomplishment, let's say, you should be a fairly good communicator, generally speaking. So anyway, he's very communicative, very passionate. But being a king, he really knows how to run things. He has a certain level of authority and decisiveness and all of that. And he's got a warm, giving, and caring personality, being that he's this passion personified kind of a guy. So perhaps that's somebody you know, but we're saying this is about you. So I'm going to guess, if it's somebody you know, they may have influenced you to have components of that in your personality. And if it's not somebody you know, it may be a facet of your personality, just because. Then it's really interesting with this card. Lately, I never get this card by itself. It's always with either this Wands card, or it's sometimes with, what's the other one? The Ten of Wands, where he's carrying all the wands in a, sort of inefficient and difficult looking way. But today it's with the Nine of Wands, which, is, I always sort of, it's not the same as the Ten of Wands, but those two also come together quite often, because this guy is the guy that we call the wounded warrior. Perhaps you have had some obstacles in life, or some, if this is regarding work, which it is often because it's an action card, but it might be any action that you've taken in the world. And he's kind of wounded. He may have been mistreated in some way, or he may perceive things to be that way, or he may have had some obstacles that seem bigger than the norm to cross over. So he feels quite wounded. Sometimes it's a physical injury. Sometimes it's somebody who has to overcome all kinds of physical problems to do their job or task, whatever it may be. But if you notice, it didn't stop him from doing the job, whatever it is. It did not stop him. He may be a bit defensive as this wounded person, but he still is doing the work. So it is also a card of overcoming. So that's what I'm going to guess you have in you. You have had to overcome some serious obstacles, yet at the same time, you are this caring and loving person. Which may even be why you're that person, because you've had to do these things. Now, this is a card of, it can be a card of like fighting games, martial arts, things like that. A lot of times if I have martial artists that I'm doing a reading for, this card will come up. Or any kind of sort of like fighting, training. It could be boxing. It could be anything of that nature. Sometimes it's even, a contact team sport like hockey. Sometimes they tussle pretty hard in hockey or football, things like that. So whatever it is for you, that could be why the card has come up. But it could also be actual arguments. You could be having an argumentative time. Often this card relates to work stuff that's going on, where people are kind of going behind your back and, sometimes making up stories about you or trying to sabotage your work. I know that sounds ridiculous, but this does happen in offices at times. Sometimes they are trying to get rid of you, making things up that, or either making things up outright or trying to make it look like you did things you didn't necessarily do. I know this sounds really extreme, but I do these readings all the time where these things do happen. So I know it sounds like if you've never worked in an office where these sorts of things happen, it sounds kind of crazy, but it's not really crazy. In fact, it's somewhat typical. So maybe that is something that, or maybe you're an argumentative person. Seems unlikely, but maybe you have that quality that some people who aren't super argumentative tend to bring to them, maybe not on purpose, but maybe you're not one who starts the argument, but maybe people get incensed if you're not arguing back, or if you don't really care about what they are so freaked out about, or something of that nature. So there are a lot of ways the dynamic can occur. So these are just some ideas because I'm doing this reading for, lots of you. It will be different in each case. So I'm sure you can kind of figure out how it applies to you, or at least most of the time you can. So the next 3 cards are going to be about what's currently happening. My favorite card in the deck. Heavy duty action card here. The 8 of Wands. A very, very positive card. This is my favorite card, the 6 of Cups. It's a card that can mean a lot of positive things. As you can see, there are some children and a garden, and with the cup between them, there's a special relationship here. Very happy, very kind, very loving. Sometimes the card is a card of nostalgia. If you had a happy childhood, it's thinking about your happy childhood. If you did have a happy childhood, that makes up what you are and who you are, and dictates how you conduct yourself in the world and how your actions go. Sometimes this is a card about a very special relationship. If you have a very happy friendship, very, very close, like one of those childhood friendships, it's just so close and happy, or you feel that you have a special friend or lover that you can tell all your secrets to and you're very, very close to. I'm so sorry. I'm super duper allergic, so I'm coughing all the time these days, and I just have to kind of go with it, because if I stopped the tape every time, or the video, whatever you want to call it, the filming, then I would never get anything accomplished. So my apologies. So yeah, this is suggestive of some very special and wonderful and close relationship. Kind of magical and sweet and maybe even secretive. And then this card, the 8 of Wands, is some action is coming in very swiftly, very quickly, and it's very, very active. It's fast and furious and kind of exciting. Can be a love relationship. Sometimes we call this card the arrows of love. And if it is the case that it is a love relationship, perhaps it is with this person from the past, from your childhood, or from when you were a young person. And if that's the case, it could be very, very beautiful. Perhaps you are going somewhere to get to this union. This is a person who has a lot of things that are quite lovely going on, a lot of opportunities, a lot of people who care, a lot of good stuff on the go, and yet he is wanting to go off to seek this missing cup. So depending on what your circumstances are, sometimes this is a warning to remember that you have these things in place. So maybe running off on some tangent is not the way to go. But if these things are not that important in your life, and what is missing is the thing that you are seeking, and, or I shouldn't even say not that important. Maybe these things are taking care of themselves. I don't know what it is for you. So it just depends, right? So maybe this person is going off to seek something they've been trying to achieve their whole life, and this is the opportunity for that. So it just depends on your circumstances. But there's a lot of action here. And this might not look good because of the defensiveness and the past hurt, or whatever it is, but it's still good. There's still action going on. There's heavy duty action going on here. This is a very active card. There's something going on, and not bad at all. In fact, these cards are quite positive. And this is going to be your outcome. Another wand. This card just keeps coming up lately like mad. So the Ace of Wands is the inception of an idea, an action that you want to take. Quite a beautiful card, quite a special card. It definitely shows that you have the power to put this into action, and I really hope you do, because in spite of everything that's going on, the timing is really magical. Sometimes when things are really weird in the world, there are some very amazing things that come out of the worst of times, and I think this is going to be something you really want to put into action. This card is not fantastic, although depending on who you have reading it, sometimes it's perceived as quite a wonderful card. It is a card that it can mean sickness, it can mean poverty. You know, as you can see, there are these two people who appear to be homeless in the street in the snow, and the one has crutches. So it can mean a lot of sad things. If you're used to having a lot of money and you're going to have a financial dip, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be in the street, but it could mean a lowering of assets, or, you know, maybe your income will not be the same for a while. A lot of people are experiencing that right now because of the fact that their work is not operating as it used to. A lot of businesses have been shut down. A lot of businesses are now remote and making less money than they normally would. A lot of things are happening with money and finance right now, so a lot of people have been affected. So you may be one of those people. If you are not seeing a reduction in income, I suggest you be very, very careful, more careful than you normally would be. Keep a really good close eye on your finances. If you are starting a business, because the Ace of Wands is all about the beginning of an idea where you're going to put something into action. If you are doing something like making a job change or starting a business, please make sure you have all your ducks in a row, so to speak, and you know what you're doing and you're mitigating all of the potential problems and you're very prepared for everything. And if you're starting a business, I know this sounds terrible because, you know, you don't want to have to wait until you have money to back everything. You want to be able to do things when you need to do them and have the motivation to do them. But if there's any way that you can make sure you have a few extra $1,000s of financial backing to, you know, have. And when I say that, things like having that extra bit of insurance, I don't say that because I think you'll necessarily need it. Sometimes it's just that when we have it, then nothing will happen to us. It's kind of like a Murphy's Law thing. Like, if you have an amazing amount of life insurance and your children would get rich if you died, you have less chance of dying. Unless you really don't want that to happen, then perhaps you can have a higher chance, ironically. But as long as you're not too invested either way and you're prepared for what happens, sometimes that's a good thing. And in this case, temperance is coming up. Now, temperance is about walking the middle line. Sometimes temperance can be a warning to not do certain things that are bad for you, bad for your body, bad for your spirit, whatever. But I'm going to say that because temperance is coming up with these two cards, and these are in somewhat opposition, you know, because this one suggests something not so hot is going to happen, and this one suggests that you're starting up something that's going to be very positive and good and productive. So temperance is here to say, whatever you're doing here, don't be too extreme. You know, I don't think it would ever tell you, temperance, not to start up something good, new, and positive, but it's just a warning to be careful. You know, don't take every cent of disposable income and throw it into something that you aren't pretty darn sure of. Just make sure you've done the work to back up whatever. Do the research, check into, see if, you know, do all of the stuff one has to do to kind of ensure the best outcome. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I would tell you that in any situation, even though I never do that or rarely do, which has not always gone well. So I can speak from experience, although sometimes it does go well. So, you know, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes it goes perfectly well. Sometimes your instincts are all that matters. So You know yourself better than anyone. Don't forget that. You know yourself. You know your situation. Even when you feel like you don't, you actually do. Sometimes the answers are right there within you. So really think about your intuition and what you believe about everything, because that is so important. So Gemini, I want to unleash you on the world, and I want you to have a fabulous week. Make some fantastic things happen. You're obviously in action, not in action, which is very, very good. You've got a lot of cups here, which is a lot of strong feelings, a lot of passion. That's fantastic. So I think you're going to have a very productive week. I can't wait to talk to you again soon, and take care.